Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Dynasty Pros Devy Show. I am Tommy Harvey, joined by Justin Taylor, Andy Pham, and SC Romero. And tonight we are now officially in college football off season. We're gearing up towards the NFL draft. We're going to discuss the national championship game from last night and a couple transfer portal items. That coming up next. All right, guys. Andy, I know you're probably over the moon excited about what happened last night. Go ahead and gloat.
27 years. And the last time they won it, they had to share it. So it's been a long, crazy ride from losing to App State, from going to Brady Hoke and Rich Rodriguez, that failed a punt snap against Michigan State, losing 10 in a row to Ohio State, and then finally turning it around, finally getting it done. And if that was the end of Harbaugh at Michigan, thank you.
Oh, there you go. Obviously, everybody knows what all happened last night. Michigan won their first national title in 27 years last night. They ran all over Washington, over 300 yards rushing. Donovan Edwards finally came back to life last night.
Yeah, a couple huge runs for him. He looked good. The first one he ran right into his lineman, but the hole was so huge he bounced off and then took it to the house. I'm happy for Andy. Happy for a bunch of my family are all from Michigan. My mom's from Michigan. I went over and brought dinner and we watched the game last night. She was super excited. She was born in Michigan, and all my mom's family are all Michigan fans. So I was sending out congratulations tweets and text messages all night last night and today is I had a ton of family member and friends that are all big Michigan fans. So yeah, it was cool to see the Big Blue get it done and get a win. Playing old school football, rushing and playing defense. Run the ball and playing defense was kind of crazy in this day and age. People don't think you can win that way anymore, but Michigan proved them wrong.
Yeah, I don't know if all of you remember what happened the year after Michigan won their last national title. Um, that was the first season of the BCS, and my Vols took it home. So hopefully that happens next year as we move to this 12 team playoff.
I do say one quick. We need to clip out that little Andy segment and tag Mr. Harborough in there. That was a beautiful tribute to him there. Just well done. I mean, he's a great coach, and I think we knew that when he first went to Michigan. Just the impact he made. We saw him do it in the NFL. We saw him do it here, and definitely give him his flowers. My big question is, because you talked about Edwards, Blake Corum also went off. Blake Corum had a great game himself, also had a pair of TDs. Where do we have Blake Corum ranked right now in our rookie rankings?
I'll just jump in real quick. I'm in the middle of a Devy draft, mock draft with a bunch of industry fellas, and I actually got Corum in the late second round, 2-9 is where I ended up getting Corum at. So it'll be interesting to see as it gets closer to the season where he ends up going, and if he does end up being, for rookie mocks, or rookie drafts in general, does he end up being in that late second, mid third round, or is he getting into a really advantageous spot and maybe people really like where he ends up, and does he possibly move up into a higher spot from there? It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, he's kind of reminding me now of guys like Ray Rice and MJD, where he's just kind of that bowling ball type of running back, has some speed, can move, laterally a little bit, but it's just a powerful back's going to run you over. So with that being said, I could see him going in rookie drafts probably early to mid second round.
I'm wrapping up a mock for one of my 12-man leagues. It's my longest reigning dynasty right now. And I had the guy taking him at the end of the first. I think it depends on where he goes. I think one big thing obviously is going to be draft capital, but with these running backs, we have to remember draft capital is in a sense irrelevant. We just see how the NFL is kind of just downplayed that running back position as far as contracts and things like that. So even if he goes day 2 in the late second or in the third round, that doesn't necessarily deplete his value at all. It actually, depending on the team, it could just be the fit. I mean, one guy in that league that I'm talking about that I'm writing up a mock for it, he's over here saying, you know what, Blake Corum goes to the Chargers. I'm all over that. I mean, we saw kind of the downplay in Eckler, this season just kind of looks like he lost a step there. And Corum, I think, could be a great fit in that offense.
I currently have him RB 8 to 10 range right now. I have a 4th to 5th round grade on him.
Going into 2024, let's kind of talk way too early national title contenders for next season. Who do you guys see as being the favorites right now, as things stand right now?
No, I'll jump in. I mean, I think you're sticking with a lot of the blue bloods, the main guys. I mean, Georgia's going to be right there again. They got Carson Beck back. They looked great to end of the year. Ohio State, if they can figure out the QB situation, you got to figure they're going to be in the mix. Michigan, again, depending on coach situation, they're going to have a ton of talent back as well. Ole Miss has been crushing the portal. Now, does that mean success? They've looked good. You guys think they would maybe be in there? Texas is another team having a decent amount of guys coming back from last year. I think they're going to be a mix, and I just think it's going to be a really interesting season now that we're looking at the 12-team playoff. One loss doesn't knock you out of it. Can keep you in it as long as you keep playing hard and playing tough against other good teams and opponents. I think it's going to keep teams in it. I know Missouri fans are fired up at the great big win over Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. They've got a lot of players coming back. I think they're a team that's going to be in the mix in the SEC, which I think is going to be interesting. Now, especially that you think, could you get 2, 3, maybe even 4 SEC teams in with a 12-teamer? I think that's something to be interesting about. And then just with all the Pac-12 going away and all these people moving, it's going to be really interesting to see how some of these teams in new conferences, how do they show up? Do they come in and look great? Can you get Oklahoma and Texas look real good? Or are they going to really struggle against new teams that they haven't usually seen in the past? So I think it's going to be a really interesting season.
Yeah, I'm actually really interested in seeing how Arizona fares in the Big 12 moving forward. I think that they could be a potential playoff type team, just because I think that they should be a favorite to win that conference next year.
I like Arizona. I like Colorado. I know they had their problems, but I think Colorado's going to be better in the Big 12. So I think both of those teams are going to be interesting. I think Arizona's sneaky good. They're a team I like a lot coming out of that, especially now that they don't have to necessarily be a top 4 team to get in. I think that's pretty interesting. They're one of those teams that's going to kind of be on the verge all year.
Right now, where we stand, I think we have to throw in Oregon. We're still waiting on what Evan Stewart's going to decide. I'm very hopeful that he does go to Oregon just because he sees how they utilize those receivers in that offense. I do believe that Tez Johnson is maybe coming back for it. He did said he was coming back for it, and they got Dylan Gabriel. They have Dante Moore, and it just looks like that there is great hopeful opportunity. They're also bringing in a running back in Jake Harris from Northwest Missouri State, who had a great run at the Division II level. So this is a great opportunity for him to go, to D1 level at a school like Oregon that we know they use their running backs as well, but also point out your defense. They brought in Kobe Savage, who's a great safety, who that's something that they kind of lacked last year in that the secondary, so now they have another one coming in, and Kobe Savage, who can definitely be a guy that can hold down the wide receivers in that Big Ten. It's going to be huge for them going to this new conference, but it's something that I think we could see them come in and make some noise out the gate. Dan Lanning's doing great things over there, and it's just I think you have to throw him into contention there, especially with Penix and now Polk, leaving with Dunze as well. This is a time for them to actually take advantage of this whole new conference.
Yeah, with Washington, they're obviously bringing in Will Rogers from Mississippi State. Jeremy Bernard is going to be one of their big targets next year, and also Jeremiah Hunter transferred in from California. So I think those two guys are looking at massive seasons for Washington.
I'll probably say Georgia. I mean, with Texas, Quinn Ewers there, so he'll probably mess up somehow next year.
Yeah, I mean Georgia and Alabama have got to be kind of obvious answers there, just because of the type of talent that they're always going to bring in. Georgia bringing, obviously Carson Beck's coming back. Speaking of Georgia, how about we dive into some transfer portal news here? They just picked up a commitment from Jaden Mayava, the UNLV freshman quarterback. Kind of a weird spot for him to land, isn't it?
Agreed.
Yeah, I was in the same boat when we kind of were talking. We posted it. I was like, man, aren't these guys wanting to transfer because they want to get to a better school, but also because they want more opportunity? And I'm like, man, for a guy going like that to just an absolute loaded QB room that already had 2 or 3 guys transfer because it is so loaded, it just seems like, oh man, you were a freshman starter and now you're going to go to a place that the chances of you starting are about 0 this year and are going to be real slim next year. I mean,
and it feels like he's QB3 right now, right? Even behind Gunnar Stockton.
Yeah, exactly. That's my thing. Is to me, if you're wanting to get more playing time or you're wanting to, raise your profile, that just seems like not the move. But yeah, I could be totally wrong. If he's willing to sit for 2 or 3 years and he thinks that that's going to help him, then maybe that's the way, if he's willing to be patient. But it'd be weird to see him turn around and try to transfer next year again and just be like, oh, well, I didn't gain playing time. Now I'm transferring. Some of these decisions have been very, very confusing to me. I'm not sure what some of these guys are thinking.
But with that, I mean, the coaches had to have talked to him, right? So they had to set something to him like, hey, here is a possible opportunity that we believe in you to come in here, and you're not the guy, Carson Beck, but we like your talent enough to bring you in to possibly take the reins or at least compete for that position next season when we assume Carson Beck does end up going to the NFL. So there had to be some connection with him and the coach there for him to agree with that, because I don't see it as a move that necessarily helps him, considering he's not going to get the playing time with how good Carson Beck played last year. So interesting, but I think there's some background noise in that they had some kind of talks with him to say, hey, we like what you have, and in time you could possibly be the starter.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the ideal situation, because when Beck leaves next year, it's going to be him and Ryan Puglisi. Those are the probably the 2 guys. So I'm pretty sure the coaches probably be like, it's no open competition. If you want to compete for it, go at it. Because it was Georgia, and the other school he named was USC. So obviously he was looking at big schools and giving a chance, and he feels probably better at Georgia.
Yeah, kind of the next quarterbacks we have here. We mentioned Ohio State trying to figure out their quarterback situation. Will Howard committed there the other day. Originally he was very, very close to committing to Southern Cal. That didn't end up coming to fruition. He started looking elsewhere and ends up landing at Ohio State. I'm not sure that this does much more for Ohio State than what like a Devin Brown would have done, honestly. What do you think,
Yeah,
Andy?
they seem kind of like similar players to me. Like Devin Brown kind of seems like a similar player to me. And then also just the USC thing. Who are we thinking is going to be the guy there now that Malachi Nelson's gone to Boise State? Moss had the really good bowl game. Is it look like it's going to be Moss's job? Do we think someone else is going to end up there? Do we think there's
I think
another
he's
guy's
really
going
the
to be
only
there?
person there.
Yeah, because you would have thought that Malachi Nelson probably was the lead candidate to get the starting job if Will Howard didn't transfer in. And now you're like, oh, all those guys are gone, and now it's just Moss. It's kind of interesting to see that's kind of how that's worked out with USC.
It's interesting. I think USC hasn't done much to do it. To answer the question is it a lateral move? Like, isn't Will Howard just Devin Brown? I think there's a little bit of juice in there for Howard. I think it's something that they realized that, hey, we need to step up from. I think when it was all said and done, Devin Brown would have been the better quarterback this season, I think, in my opinion. Now you bring in Will Howard, I think that's a step up from Devin Brown in general. They're also bringing in Quinshon Junkins, a big running back that we'll talk about, but that's going to be a huge step for them. And Marvin Harrison Jr. and Egbuka has not declared yet. So that's very interesting that maybe they're like, we need a quarterback that's going to move this offense or at least electrify this offense a little bit more, which I think we didn't see as much last year as we were hoping for. So very interesting to see. If not, he still has Carnell Tate, he still has Brandon Ennis, he still has a great plethora of wide receivers there. So I think it was a step up from where Devin Brown is.
I think Will Howard will run Ryan Day's system the way Ryan Day wants it run, and he's going to win it. And Devin Brown should probably transfer out back to Utah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Speaking of Malachi Nelson leaving USC, he has, kind of made a head scratching move here, headed to Boise State. That does a lot for CFF production, I guess, but I think it hurts his value as a Devy asset. I mean, Boise's not known for putting out quarterbacks into the NFL. Kellen Moore withstanding, and then the fact that the new head coach there is a defensive minded head coach, so he's not even really a developer of quarterbacks.
But as you mentioned, for CFF purposes, I mean, this could be a step down from him, right, as far as draft stock, but he could come out in 2026 or have that other year there. And so this is an opportunity for him to go showcase. And then this is also an opportunity for him to say, okay, look, I am worth this NIL money. The NIL money is making big moves, right? You're hearing some people going because, hey, I'm getting offered millions of dollars here. If he goes out there and balls out and you have some quarterbacks leave that said they were coming back this year, he has an opportunity to then get some NIL money, more so than what he already, had. So this could be a move in his favor. He definitely just has to go out there and produce in a conference like your Boise State. This is something where he can do that. And if he doesn't, then yeah, it definitely hurts his stock.
Yeah. Dynasty Dogs, I agree with you. Malachi Nelson's breaking my heart too. I'm actually looking to sell him just based off his name value. Hopefully somebody bites on him.
Yeah, he was the guy. I was just going to say, he was the guy that we talked about all season, his Devy value, and he was the guy I wanted because I thought with him being at USC that Devy value was going to hold pretty strong with Caleb Williams leaving afterwards. And even if he hadn't played, I thought it was going to hold really strong. Now I'm like, oh, what do I do with the shares I have of him? Because again, in CFF, I think you're looking, he should be putting up some nice numbers, but in Devy, does this really deplete his Devy value? What do you think, Andy?
I think this is a 1-year rental for Boise. He's going to go down, show out, and then transfer back up because he waited too long to get into the portal. So once he entered, there really wasn't any good jobs left. So he was looking for a place where he can start right away. Boise, yeah, they have a defensive first mind head coach, but that offense coordinator, Boise averaged over 30 points a game once that a new staff took over. So I think this is a 1-year rental. It'll be a step up. Janty's there. They have a couple of receivers out of the portal. So I think you're going to get really good production. You're going to show, or he's going to show what he has. And then at the end of the year, he's going to move back up to the Power 4.
Now, let's move on to a guy who's actually returning to his school out of the portal. He withdrew his name, Caden Salter. I think that was a great decision by him. He has looked great there at Liberty, and honestly, I think the only other place that would have made sense for him to go would have been somewhere like an Auburn, or even a TCU. But TCU feels like a just kind of a mediocre job to me. Whereas at Auburn, he could have been there with Hugh Freeze reuniting with him. But going back to Liberty makes a ton of sense for him.
I think with Salter, with this one, it was also he also entered his name too late. He didn't want to enter his name into the portal before the bowl game and cause a big mess, be a distraction. So he waited till after the bowl game, put his name out there, realized the same thing with Malachi Nelson. There's no good opportunities left. So he withdrew. I think he's going to ball out at Liberty, and then he's going to transfer up next year.
Yeah, I second that. I mean, I just think it's a fair move. Where the hope is he just doesn't end up like what Frank Harris did this year, where he had a great CFF season and then just came out and bombed, this past season. So hopefully he has the same production he had, if not better, and just grows on that and kind of learns from what he did. If he has the opportunity to move up next year, then do it. If not, hey, you can just continue to ball out at Liberty.
Yeah, we got one more quarterback we're wanting to go over here. It's a really big step up in competition for him, moving from Albany to Miami, and that's Reese Poffenbarger. Is this guy? I've seen some of his film. To me, moving up to this level, he seems like a walking turnover, just waiting to happen. He's even self-described himself as a gunslinger. I don't know if that really is going to translate from where he's coming from up to where he's going.
So I need to watch more tape on this guy. Because I saw this and I was like, all right, let's talk about him. But if he is this gunslinger that he says and it fails, hey, feed Mark Fletcher all day. This could be a great year for him to just do some great things out the backfield. But hey, I mean, some guys take that shot and they run with it. So, this is kind of swimmer sink for him.
Yeah, I don't know much about him at all. I just thought it was interesting. It seemed like Miami was linked to damn near everybody. Like, it seemed like everybody like Miami was in the portal. Cam Ward, it was just like every guy came across, it was like Miami's in. And then the fact that Miami gets no one until this guy, I was very interested to see what kind of was happening there, what was going on, because it seemed like almost every quarterback was being mentioned with Miami, and then none of them ended up there.
Cristobal's got to be on the hot seat moving into this next season there, doesn't he?
Gotta be.
I think with this one for Miami, I think they're waiting for Talia to get that eligibility, that waiver, because there's no way you're going to go out there with him, with JoJo Trader, Nye Carr, Jordan Lyle, all those guys, all those studs. You're not going to trot out a kid from Albany. So I think they're just praying for Talia.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of putting your eggs in one basket that Cristobal can't afford to do right now. All right, moving on to running back. We got some pretty big bangers right here. Quinshad Judkins announced last night, right as the national championship game was ending, in an attempt to steal some thunder away from Michigan, some headlines away from Michigan, that he is transferring transferring to Ohio State. Seems like a very Ohio State thing to do to try to steal some headlines there away from Michigan.
I mean, I don't know what you guys thought about that. I thought it was an interesting move. It's not like he hasn't got fed at Ole Miss. I mean, they've up-tempo game. They got the ball. He's got a ton of touches. It's not like they don't run a high-powered offense with Lane Kiffin, and then all the transfers they can come in. I can understand if he maybe was worried about his job because some other guys that came in, but it didn't look like that. I don't know if something was happening behind the scenes, but it seemed like a very strange move for me that he all of a sudden took Ohio State, which for everybody else, I think, what does this say about Travion Henderson, what he's going to do? Because he hasn't declared. He was talking about maybe coming back, but if Juggins going there, it seems very strange that he would go there if Henderson's going to stay. It seems like even a stranger move for Juggins.
Well, to me, it just seems like he got the bag. I mean, he saw where Ole Miss was doling out all this NIL to these transfers coming in, and he's like, well, where's my money? And then they didn't give it to him, so he went elsewhere and got it.
But with Quinshawn, if Travion Henderson does declare, which at this point I feel a bunch of us are assuming he does with this kind of move, the Big Ten defenses are not the same as the SEC. So if he goes there and just does what he did in the SEC, this is an opportunity for him to do better and more on an offense that was higher in the rankings than his former team, an offense that they know how to get there, right? They just had the obstacle in Michigan this year, but you have a lot of players that that they're wide receiver already. They have an offense that can be electric. They have a good defense. They have good linebackers that they put out, some good lines on the defensive front as well. This is, to me, it was a good move. Even if Travion stays, I mean, we're just going to see a fantastic 1-2 punch. To me, this was a good move for him based on the difficulty going down in the defenses that he's going to play, in my opinion. To me, also, I mean, Kendrick Riscano, he was a freshman last year at Ole Miss. This is a guy you want to buy. I think this is a guy that when he did get on, you saw some good flashes of him. Right now, I believe the backfield is going to be his. I think he's their best back right now, and this is a time to buy in on him before his breakout season.
Yeah, with Judkins headed to the Big Ten, I mean, outside of Michigan, I kind of thought that the Big Ten defenses were highly overrated. And I think we saw that during bowl season. Penn State got kind of ran off the field, against Ole Miss. Iowa got blasted by Tennessee. And those were supposedly two of the top defenses in the country. I think it shows that the Big Ten this year was very light on offense, and that the defenses weren't nearly as good as what everybody was saying they were.
I think outside of Michigan and Ohio State, I think Michigan and Ohio State were fantastic.
Right.
I will say I do believe this year Ohio State does come to Oregon. So in that game, bench him because he won't do good. Oregon's going to shut him down. But every other game, I mean, he should have a great game.
All right, next one. We got Penny Boone headed to Louisville. There was speculation he could be headed to Florida State, but he is joining Donald Chaney Jr. and heading to Louisville. That seems like kind of a decent 1-2 punch there for the Cardinals. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, I think it's a good move. It gets a slight bump up in competition, so I kind of like it. With that open system. So I think if he can be the 1A instead of the 1B for that backfield, I think he's got some chance, maybe some draft capital next year.
Yeah, here's kind of a head scratcher to me. We had talked about it a little bit earlier on our Twitter chat. George Pettaway headed to James Madison. Andy, you kind of posed the question: could he not have found somewhere better to go?
Yeah, I must have missed that one because I've been doing like 20 different things. So when I saw that on the sheet, I was like, what? He couldn't find any other Power 4 school. He had to go to James Madison.
Yeah, and not only that, but he's the second one to transfer to James Madison in that day, because Ayo Adebayo from North Texas also transferred there. So I mean,
James Madison's good though. So I mean, if this is something that he can go out there and win the battle, then why not? And this is the crazy thing is with this transfer portal era and this NIL era, you have some guys that are gonna transfer down and hope they get the shot to do better and then transfer up. Just what we were saying earlier with Malachi Nelson, right? In the sense of this is just the day and age we're living in, and this is what a time to be alive, right? We're seeing people move left and right, and this year was the most transfer portal entries ever. And we're only going to see that elevate with seeing how this NIL plays out, seeing what's really going on here, seeing what this money talks is going to do. But we're going to see some guys that say, hey, I didn't get my shot at this level. Let me go down, get my opportunity, ball out. Coaches now see, oh yeah, I'm legit. I can play at a college level, not Division I at the necessarily, but at a college level and go there as well. So I mean, this is huge for him, and hopefully he succeeds.
yeah, another running back that got me kind of scratching my head. Nate Noel transferring to Missouri. They already got Marcus Carroll this offseason. I mean, that just seems like kind of a step down from where Nate Noel was as a starting running back. Now he's going to transfer to Missouri to be a complimentary back.
I'll jump in on this one real quick as a Mizzou guy. I know they were on him early before the other commits, and I'm wondering if maybe he kind of waited around too long to officially commit, because I know Missouri was on him right away. And I'm wondering if something happened where he was looking at a couple other places and there was nothing there, and he kind of like started looking around and was like, oh no, I'm in trouble. I don't have a spot anywhere. And since Missouri had talked to him already and kind of been all over him, it's a great ad for Missouri. Now, does it make a lot of sense for him personally? I don't know, because again, he's definitely the backup unless an injury happens. He's the backup and he's possibly the number 3 there. So I think if he actually got in the game and got good playing time, I think he could be good at Missouri. I think he's nice depth for them. But again, I think it's a little bit of a strange move for him in that, where the depth chart is looking at in Mizzou. And again, they were on him right away. And I wonder if it was just one of those situations he waited around too long to make an official decision and then kind of was like, oh, I got to go back to my original, I originally talked to them. I was going to go there and he did it, but it's, they've already got a couple other guys to commit since then.
Yeah. And then SC, I'm going to defer to you on this one. Your boy, Dante Dowdle, committed to Nebraska over this past week. Good spot. Yes, no, maybe, indifferent.
I mean, personal opinion, no, because you left Oregon, right? That was your prime time. But no, I think this is good for him. They, got Dylan Raiola. They have Malachi Coleman there. They have a great offense, and I think this is something where we're gonna see a new look Nebraska. Nebraska kind of been in the shade for a minute now, and I think this is something where they're actually gonna get a high powered offense that just looks good, looks explosive, and I believe this backfield's his. It could have been his in Oregon too. I don't know if that signing of Jay Harris kind of deterred him, or he just didn't like that he didn't get any playing time really in Oregon this past year. But good move for him. I'm happy. I hope he gets this opportunity, and he's still one of my top backs in that class. So if you're in leagues and people are down on him because he moved from Oregon to Nebraska, I think go buy him, because I think this is something where he's going to develop even further, and we're just going to actually see him have a great season this season.
And actually, there's one more running back that I wanted to talk about. I didn't put him on our show sheet, so this is going to be kind of a surprise to you guys. But Jalen Lucas transferring from Indiana to Florida State. Just one of those kind of jittery, real quick, smallish type of running backs. I think that could really be a weapon in that Florida State offense with DJU going there. All right, moving on to wide receiver here. obviously the big fish out there is Evan Stewart, right? He's being linked to Oregon now. That seems like that would be the perfect spot for him to go to, be Dylan Gabriel's number one guy. We see how Oregon, how that offense can really use explosive wide receivers. We've seen it with Troy Franklin. Tez Johnson has also been really good there. I think that I think Oregon would be the perfect spot for Evan Stewart. What do you guys think, JT?
Yeah, I love that move for him. I think, obviously anybody that get him is going to be pumped because he's the guy. He's the man out there. A lot of people, I know we've talked about him either being the number one or number two, kind of back and forth in next year's draft. If you get it on an explosive offense like Oregon, I think he could put up crazy numbers, and I think his Devy stock would just rise. So if somebody's down, which I doubt very many people are down on Evan Stewart, even with all the situation going on, but if somebody is, go get him. But I think Oregon's just a great spot to show his talents. I mean, we've seen what Franklin did last year, Tez Johnson's done. I think that team, even without Bo Nix, I think with the other quarterbacks they have, I think he can be an absolute stud there. So I love that move, and that's what he decides to do.
What do you got, SC?
I mean, yeah, of course, I would love this. I mean, this is arguably the wide receiver one in that 25 class, and I think this is something that can benefit him as well. Like, JT just said, we saw what they did with Troy Franklin. I think he'll slide right into that. Will it be that? I don't know, right? This is someone's. If he hasn't made a decision, someone's in his ear, right? So who that is, it could be many options. Texas could be something that could link up to him. He's at A&M and just, hey, let's just go to Texas or something, go to that Big 12 or SEC. Actually, stay in the SEC. Excuse me. I would love to see him at Oregon, regardless of where he goes. He's someone that you want on your team. I mean, yeah, I'm going to defer to Andy here in a second because I know he is the wide receiver one for you in that class. But this is someone that is a dynamic offensive player, and we're going to be talking about him all season. We cut it sore a little bit this season with him, but this is someone that you want on your radar, and he's going to be a first-round pick next year.
Yeah, with him, I don't think a landing spot matters. But I will just throw it out into existence. I want him to go to LSU. But he is my wide receiver one overall, for next year. I think he's gonna, wherever he goes, he's gonna do great. And when he goes to the NFL, for me, he is already a tier one wide receiver in NFL Dynasty. I think that highly of him. So no matter where he ends up, it doesn't matter. He will show out.
Did you, real quick, Andy, did you have him as your wide receiver two behind Marvin Harrison? Or did you have Neighbors as your one, right? I think you had Neighbors as your one, but
I have Marvin Harrison at 1, and then Neighbors at 2, and then Stewart at 3. So with the 24 class leaving, he's my overall wide receiver number 1.
I kind of want to jump into a little bit of a Indiana kind of link here, connection. Elijah Surratt, we talked about James Madison. He is leaving James Madison to head to Indiana. But then also Cam Camper is leaving Indiana to head to Boise State. What do you think about those two moves? Andy, I'll go start with you on this one.
For this one, I absolutely love Camper to Boise. I think he will be Malachi's wide receiver 1, and I think he's going to show out. So I really think Boise has an outside chance of making it to the top 12 next year. I really do. Malachi Nelson, Genty, those receivers that they have there, and yeah, they have that defensive-minded coach, so they're going to play defense. And I'm really excited to see what they do next year.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Andy there. With Nelson going there, their schedule is not super difficult. I could easily see Boise State going undefeated and getting in the playoffs with the type of guys they have. I think they're going to be sneaky, just like he said there. Indiana's Indiana. It's like you never quite know what to do with them. It's like every time you think they're going to turn that corner and start to like, oh, all right, this team's going to be like pretty decent most of the time and maybe have a really good year every so often. It's like, they change coaches, guys transfer. They just can't ever seem to kind of lock it down, which is kind of funny because I know Indiana, everybody thinks that Indiana is a basketball state, but they have a ton of good football talent. Yeah, high school football talent that goes through there. Just they can't seem to ever lock any of those guys in.
Yeah.
They always end up at Iowa. They always end up at Michigan. They, even Purdue usually gets those guys over them. So it's a lot of Michigan State guys end up going there. So yeah, it's like if you look and you need playing time, I could see going to Indiana. But for the Surratt move for me, it was interesting. I was a little surprised that he picked Indiana of all places to go.
Well, I mean, they've done pretty well in the portal this year, grabbing Curtis Rourke out of Ohio, Miles Cross out of Ohio, Miles Price out of Texas Tech, and now Surratt. I really like what they've done as far as bringing in a quarterback and then three pretty good wide receivers.
I mean, a lot of the Big Ten is wide open, outside of the Bane Dogs. I mean, a lot of those guys are all grouped together. If you can get a couple studs and things go your way, I mean, you can have that 8-4 season, 9-3 kind of shocker, depending on how the schedule works out year to year. So, maybe it is something they can put something together, for a year or two. It's, Illinois has been on that same level with them, Northwestern kind of all in there, Minnesota, just like kind of hanging around and trying to figure it out. So it'd be interesting to see if maybe this with those guys in the transfers is a year Indiana kind of puts it together a little bit.
Camper too. I mean, with McAllister leaving to TCU, this was a huge move for him to be one of their top guys. They can use that wide receiver there, and he can easily go in there and be the one. And again, just to move with Nelson. I mean, if he goes out there and balls out with Nelson, this is an opportunity for him to move back up to a bigger contender and possibly get that bag next season too.
Yeah. Now, Andy, I'm going to throw it to you because this is going to be kind of your area. Mikey Matthews transferring from Utah, headed over to Cal. What do you think of the move? Is it a step up for him as far as being able to gain production?
From what I know behind the scenes with Utah offered him pretty good at NIL. They actually reached out to him recently. Mikey Matthews has told him that he wants to have a prominent role. Now, he is supposed to go to Baylor or visit Baylor. I wonder if Baylor didn't guarantee that. So Cal reached out. Cal funnels their targets. We saw that with Hunter. So I'm wondering if for Mikey Matthews, Cal gave him that promise to be like, yeah, we'll have you be that guy for us. And I do think it is a step up. I mean, we don't know what the offense is going to look like next year, but Jaden Ott returns. I don't know how I feel about that quarterback. They have to Chandler Rogers. They have Mendoza was decent last year. My only concern is that offensive coordinator and what that will look like, because Jaden Ott has shown out, so we know what he is going to be. With Mikey Matthews, he's more of that gadgety, scheme him up type of a receiver. So are they going to funnel that offense through him? And if so, are they going to do it on like slants, short area touches? So and then on the other side, they have Tobias Merriweather from Notre Dame. He's proven that he can't do anything at the Power 4 level. I still think for Cal, that's too big of a competition for him. So overall, I think it's a good move for Mikey Matthews, but as a whole scheme fit, I just don't know.
A couple other guys here that I just kind of want to go over. We kind of spoke on this last week. Noah Rogers transferring from Ohio State. He has selected NC State as his next destination. I think we were kind of all in with that last week. We had expected him to choose NC State. We all kind of like that destination for him. Actually, we do have a question here from Dynasty Dogs. Just want to get that thrown out there real quick. I have a question in a Devy draft. What would Jackson Dart's value be if he's still available? I'm assuming you mean what round you should be taking him in. And I would probably assume you mean in a startup draft.
Either startup or a supplemental, like where he's still out there for a
Yeah.
Devy. Because I've been in leagues where Jackson Dart didn't get taken in a Devy the last couple of years. Man, that's a really good question. Where would we look at his value? Where would you take him?
Let me check out my QB rankings.
Look at your rankings. I don't have mine pulled up, but to me,
Yeah,
I feel like he would be in that maybe 10-ish range. Does that seem crazy to you guys?
As you guys look, I'll answer the question from my point.
I've got Dart as my QB 7 currently. That's without putting the incoming freshman in. I've got him. That's with also taking out all the outgoing or projected outgoing quarterbacks. I have Dart as my QB 7 currently. As I've started kind of working through these. Dart, I would say in a supplemental third round, maybe. Just because, I mean, like I said, you're going to have these freshman wide receivers coming in who obviously you're going to want to take. You're going to want to take Jeremiah Smith. You're going to want to take Micah Hudson. Not only that, but without knowing who all is out there in your, as being available in your supplemental draft, I can only go based off what I have him ranked as. So I would probably say third round in a supplemental, third to fourth round.
Yeah, Andy, what were you saying about where you had him at?
To answer the question from Michael, I will look at him at the last round of a Devy sub draft.
Being fourth, are you talking that being 4 rounds or 5 rounds, or
if it's a 5 round, I'll look at in the 5th round. If it's a 4 round, look at him in the 4th round. I don't believe in taking quarterbacks in a Devy draft. There's too much risk involved. I would rather load up the position at wide receiver or running back, build extreme value in that bucket, and then trade for a proven quarterback.
I mean, I currently have him as QB 20. And that's with taking projected guys out, and then not even including the incoming freshmen. So if you want a quarterback, and I mean, even if you're a 5 round, I think I'm passing on him in my current Devy draft or Devy league that I have. We have 8 spots. He's on the board. So, I mean, he's a high risk, high reward type of player. I think there is opportunity. We saw some of that this past year, so he could definitely increase, but he would have to have one hell of a season to even move anywhere near the first round. He's not even a day 2 pick for me right now. He's 5th, 6th round, 5th at best right now for me in an NFL draft. So, yeah, I agree. I'm not necessarily touching him right now. There's so many other quarterbacks I'd rather have.
Yeah, I'd probably sit with you guys on that. Like I said, I think I probably got him around QB 10, but just you haven't seen a lot of NFL buzz about him in his game just yet. So if you are really QB shy, you don't have a lot of QBs, and you're like, you want to take a dart throw, then I think I would do it. I mean, obviously throw a dart, Jackson Dart, I would do it if you just want to take a chance. But if you're worried about wasting that pick and taking someone a little more likely to hit, then I think you maybe go another route. But if you want to take a chance, then yeah, I'm with you guys. Probably last round of my Devy.
I think I'd rather take a shot on KJ Jefferson at UCF than I would Jackson Dart right now.
And that's where I would have him in that range. A lot of those QBs are just like fringe guys. They've got some talent. They got some ability. Could they put it together and hit their last year? I think I'm with you. He would be in that range with me, in that KJ Jefferson range.
All right. A couple other guys I I'd like to hit on here. We just got done talking about Noah Rogers to NC State. I think we were all kind of all in on that one. LeJontay Wester heading to Colorado. I'm not sure I like that, honestly. I think Colorado has a lot of mouths to feed, and I think if he'd have stayed at FAU, Cam Fancher just transferred down there. So I mean that seems like that would have been a really good connection.
Yeah, I mean, I got my FAU sweatshirt on today. My sister and brother-in-law went there. I wish he would have stayed. I mean, he was just, he was the man there. You knew they were going to feed him. I think he could play well at Colorado. To me, it's not a talent level. I think he could play well there. But I think, like you said, I just think there's way too many guys going to be involved. There's no way he puts up the numbers at Colorado that he put up at FAU. I just don't think it's anywhere close. He'll be in the mix with some guys. I think he'll help them in some games. Attention-wise, does Colorado make a better move just because of how much attention Coach Prime gets? Maybe that helps him out there. But on the field production, I think it's a step down for him production-wise.
I think it tanks a CFF value.
CFF value, I think it hurts it big time.
What do you got on that, Andy?
Well, you're the Colorado guy, SC. So I'll let you talk about him at being at Colorado. But I mean, as a player, I like him as a player. But where he lands, I don't know. I mean, what is he going to be at best? The slot receiver, maybe the fourth receiver. So I'm not a fan of it. And for CFF, yeah, I have 100% rostership of him. I'm not too happy.
Yeah,
that hurts.
I mean, the big transfer news for Colorado at the wide receiver position is Will Shepherd. I think that was a great move for them to acquire that. And it's nice going, whenever you're seeing Coach Prime in this transfer portal, you're starting to see some of these players. It's like, go to the coach, not the school, right? And the dynamic that he's creating there, just the culture he developed over one season, people want to play with him. And so Will Shepherd, even with Wester, okay, you got some receivers there, but the offense wasn't necessarily the problem last year. So the big move for them is going to be the defensive guys that they brought in. They brought in guys from Alabama. They brought in guys from LSU, Kentucky. They brought in some monsters up front where they struggled. Now let's go get a couple more defensive backs. And I think they still have a couple moves to make. But, I mean, defense is going to be what's going to be their difference maker this upcoming year. Their offense was already good. Sadir's more than likely coming back. I don't believe he's officially said it yet. But they revamped that whole offensive line to protect Shadir because he was one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the league last year. So, I mean, the offense is fun. It's cool that he went there, but I think this was solely a move to play for the coach. Even if he doesn't get that playing time, I mean, you're getting coached by a Hall of Famer in the NFL. So,
yeah, and Prime really needs to win this year. Another 4-8 season, his mystique is probably gone. But he needs to win this season because he's going to lose a lot of this talent. Shador has 1 year left. Travis Hunter's only going to be there for another year. So he's going to lose the main bulk of his talent he has there. So he needs to put it together and win some games.
Now, while I don't think they'll win the Big 12, sorry, SC, I know you think that they will. The one good thing about going to the Big 12 is that they don't play defense. So that's very good for Colorado.
Well, and also Oklahoma and Texas are leaving, so your main competition is going to be gone. It's basically going to be Arizona, Oklahoma State, Kansas State,
I was about to say the people that have the big guys up front, Oklahoma and Texas, yeah, they're out now. So you got a hall pass, if you will, right now.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this move is great for Colorado. I mean, they're getting a lot of the big dogs out of there. Obviously, the Pac-12 had one of their strongest conferences all around this year. I just think, Coach Prime, I think Colorado is primed to have a big season in the Big 12 because I think it's going to be all offense all day over there. And I think it's going to fit right into them because it's going to come down to who has the best athletes. And I think Colorado is going to end up having the best athletes when they play most of their games this year. Now, does that mean could they make the 12? I think they can make the 12 because I think they can win that conference. Now, can they win a game in the playoffs? That's questionable. But I think you're going to see a lot of highlights from this year and a lot of talk because I just think I think talent is going to win out for them. And I think what is going to end up being a much, much easier schedule than they had this past season.
And the last couple of guys that I'm wanting to kind of throw out there, both transferring to Florida State. Malik Benson headed from Alabama to Florida State, and Jalen Brown, former four-star wide receiver, headed from LSU to Florida State. I really like the Jalen Brown move. I think he has a lot of skill. I think you pair him with Hakeem Williams and Vendravius Jacobs. I think that could work for him. What do you got here, Andy?
Yeah, with this one, with Benson, my thing with him all off season and then into the season was he was either going to win the slot role or he was going to be a bench player and get over recruited. And that's what happened. He ends up transferring out. I still do believe in the talent, and I do believe that he will be the wide receiver 1 for Florida State and for DJU. I think overall, as a talent in the room, I think he's got the most talent, so I do like him. With Jalen Brown, I was pretty high on him at when he came into LSU. You know, obviously it was a full room this year, and him transferring out is going to do good for him.
I like the move for both of them. I mean, I think this is great for DJU, you know, to have this talent just around him for him to be able to go there and really repeat what he did in Oregon State. This is an opportunity to get two guys that can, you know, stretch the field for you. And really, we didn't see much from them last year. So they're kind of getting that, hey, second chance. You know, a lot of guys that do go in those big times, you know, they didn't get the necessities to transfer over to another power school. We saw what Florida State did last year, and really they're really trying to repeat it, you know, and this is a good step in the right direction.
All right, guys, I think that's going to do it for tonight's show. I'm going to throw it to each one of you here. Go and tell us where we're able to, what it is you're working on, and where we're able to find you. JT, let's go and start with you.
Yeah, find me on the X at JT Orange. You can find my show, The Stew with JT Brew, on Dynasty Pros Football YouTube channel. Just came out with my season-long NFL where I went back and looked at all the over-unders, win-loss records I picked for before the year, kind of looked at how I did for the year. So that show is out now if you want to check that out. Always find me here on the Devy Show with you guys. If you're into IDP info at all, do those kinds of leagues, I have my rankings on DLF, and I also do a waiver wire article during the season for Fantrax. So check me out at any of those places.
SC.
You can find me on X at the PPR. So big things to come. I'm just waiting for this last day to declare, which is January 15th. And then we'll get back into doing some IDDP and just some good off-season content all around. Yeah, just stay tuned. Just waiting for this declaration date to finally pass for us.
You can find me at Andy_Fam1. What do I have going on? This Sunday, every Sunday and Wednesday, my Devy Digest show with League Winners will be airing on live on YouTube and on X, and then airing the next day on Spotify. Every Monday with the League Winners dropping a 2024 player profile, get you ready for your NFL rookie drafts. Every Friday, doing a Freshman Friday to take a look at your C2C and Devy sub drafts. Every Wednesday and Saturday, I'm dropping a Utah State, and BYU content. The goal there, we're going to give you all access look behind the scenes with those 3 Utah schools. That's at League Winners. I feel like this is an infomercial because, oh, wait, there's more. I believe I can say this now. I've paired up with the CFB Nation starting January 16th. I'm going to be doing weekly content covering the Michigan Wolverines. And then this fall, I'll be at the Big House.
Nice.
That's
Congrats,
awesome, man.
That's
Congratulations.
awesome.
Congratulations on all that. Really, really happy for you. Again, that's going to do it for tonight's show. I am Tommy Harvey for JT, SC, and Andy. We will see you next week.